So, Maureen, round two for you and I. It's
2.5, really, right?
a half. Yes, we tried one last week to try to do this last week, and all of a sudden somebody hit a transformer in my area and knocked off the power. So it didn't really work. And I see, do we still have Stella with us?
We have her. She's on my lap again.
So she hasn't been there the whole time since the last time we talked.
No.
I appreciate you coming back because I do think that there are some things that I would like to pursue, especially in relation to poverty. Three things, really. But the first one I was going to ask you was, you know, when we were on the mayor's panel 5-6 years ago, so many people came to us. You know, it was 1,000 people in groups overall that came over that 7-month period. Yeah. And, you know, we heard a lot of things that people felt needed to be done. And then, of course, it went to council, and council passed it unanimously. Now, of course, things have to work out through the infrastructure of the city and other groups. But is it your sense that the poverty file has kind of spun out of control since that time, 5-6 years ago? Or do you still think we're kind of on it and are managing it?
I think the big focus right now is housing.
Mm-hmm.
So our panel took that more holistic approach, and rightfully so, because it's also connected. You know that better than I do. The connection between all sorts of things, food insecurity and employment and economic recovery. At that time, we were still talking about the economic recovery from the 2008 recession. We were still talking about that back in 2015.
Yeah.
And so I think right now, those other pieces are not as big a part of the conversation right now as maybe they should be. And it's all about housing. And I get that as well. The housing part, we're getting a lot of funding from the other levels of government. There is a big push across the board for housing. And housing is that, as much as they are all connected, I feel like housing is that one piece that can be the catalyst to get the other pieces in place. If people are not adequately housed, if they're not safe and warm and secure, it's very difficult to get all of the other things in place.
Yeah, and it seems to me that a lot of things have added to that. It could be property rates, you know, it could be unemployment. There's just so many things that have changed in the last 5 years, and especially in the last 2 with COVID. Yeah. But the most expensive thing of all, really, in the end, especially in capital items, is housing. And I think it's maybe one of the reasons why it's remained unaddressed so long, is because it really does require a certain coordination amongst the 3 jurisdictions, 3 levels of government, or it's just not going to happen. And if all of a sudden through society there's a surge of people that are suddenly needing it, and the 3 levels have to suddenly try to get that together and work on it, it's going to take time for that to work through the system. And I guess that's kind of where we're at now. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. You know, Glenn, during our panel work, I went to Toronto and I met with the late Pam McConnell, who was the deputy mayor of Toronto, and she was the council lead for their poverty reduction strategy. Yeah. She was so gracious and generous with her time. She spent an entire day with me, the first half just talking to me, talking about what they did and how they got to where they were. And then the second half of the day was meeting with her staff. So it was very different from how we did it in London. We had no budget, as you know, in London. And we had Lynn Livingston was the managing director of the area City Hall that was working on these issues. Now she's city manager, but she was the staff lead on it. And they were working off the sides of their desks. They were working, I was saying at the time, 2 full-time jobs, because the poverty panel work was a full-time job. And then they had their other jobs, her and her staff. So, but in Toronto, it started out as a staff-driven thing, and it worked that way for a year. Then they went to the mayor and they said, we need to bring in the political side. And we sort of did it backwards again in London. We've started at the political side. So they brought the deputy mayor in to lead it on the political side, and they worked together for another year. So when I talked to her, I was very proud of what we had accomplished, because we did we met with more people. We had more engagement over 7 months compared to what they did over 2 years in Toronto. What they did was very, very good and very successful, but I wish we had the budget and the political will to put the money in the way they had done in Toronto. But regardless, we should be really proud at what we accomplished. But one thing that Pam told me that day was, what did she say? A wave like this, and at that time, the governments were very focused on poverty reduction, the federal and provincial governments, and especially child poverty. Yeah. So they were giving funding to municipal governments. They were trying to do things about it. And she said, a wave like this comes along about once every 10 years. And when it comes, you ride it as long as you can. And so as the focus and talk about poverty reduction and the panel and everything was starting to wane, I had feared that wave was over. And it seemed like the wave was coming down. And I think what COVID has done is ramped it way back up again, like more so than it ever was when we were doing the poverty panel work. And I was at a Black History Month event, virtual, that Ariel Kayabaga had hosted. She had Mitzi Hunter there. She had Jean Augustine and a number of other very amazing, prominent women politicians and advocates and leaders. She had the president and CEO of LHSC was one of her panelists as well. I can't remember her name. She was amazing. But one of the guests said that COVID didn't necessarily cause the problems that we're seeing now in poverty and homelessness and inequity and things like that. It just brought it into really sharp relief. The focus has really been on some of these social issues that have always been there, simmering beneath the surface. But COVID has made everybody look at it and say, holy cow, this is what's going on. Yeah. And the governments of the day are looking to do something about it, which is really good. So it's a big wave, and I think we got to ride it. We have to get on our surfboards and get on the top of that wave.
So can you give us a Civics 101 lesson? So when we were doing the panel those years ago, it wasn't just groups that met with us, groups that were helping with housing, and it was individuals too. Individual citizens were coming forward to say that they really felt that some of these issues needed to be worked on. When these issues end up coming to City Hall, informally or formally, can you explain to us how it works through the process? I know in the time that I was in Ottawa, people just thought that they could talk to their MP and bang, that's all it took. The MP could talk to the Prime Minister and it would just get done. That's not the way it works at all. There's so many things that have to be gone through. How does it work at the city?
At the city, and when I talk to groups, I lament the fact that the municipal level has the least amount of attention and people are most apathetic. We have the lowest voter turnout at the municipal level, 39% in the last municipal election. Mm-hmm. And yet it has such a direct impact on people's day-to-day lives. And we are the most flexible of all three levels of government. We can do things rather quickly, and we can do things based off of direct citizen engagement. So somewhat related in the field of poverty strategies and things like that. We had a delegation come to us. There was a person who works at Virgin Radio, a representative from the Thames Valley School Board, like a youth representative. They came to City Hall and they said, this is what's happened at Western University. This is what's happened in the Thames Valley School Board and in some other jurisdictions. Organizations are making menstrual products available free of charge in public washrooms. And we really want the City of London to do the same thing in your buildings. And these are the reasons why. They talked about young girls and women, especially living in poverty, who miss about a month of school because their families cannot afford these products. They're not cheap. And embarrassed to admit that. And I know the food bank regularly makes calls for these kinds of products because they are in such need. And so they made this delegation to a committee of council, the Community and Protective Services Committee, I believe it was. It might have been Corporate Services. And we had a brief discussion, and the committee recommended to the whole of council that staff go ahead and do, I think it was a 1-year pilot project, put these products in our publicly accessible buildings, and then come back with us after a year and tell us how it went. And it was a huge success. And now they are in all of our buildings that the city owns. And I recently had a delegate or an email come to me from an advocate in Hamilton asking, and I don't know why, sometimes you get these emails and I'm like, I don't know why they picked me. Maybe they sent it to all of the councillors. I don't know. How did you do it? What happened? We are getting some resistance from Hamilton City Council, and we want to see this happen in Hamilton. So I reached out to staff. I got all of the reports that had come forward, and then the one that costed it out. It was not a very high cost program. It's not high cost at all, and sent up all of that information to this advocate in Hamilton, and they were using the experience in London to try to make change there in Hamilton. So that's how accessible the municipal government can be, compared to an MP and having to talk to the Prime Minister and make something happen.
Yeah, I know at the food bank, for instance, Mandy Fields, who works for Bell Media, she had started camp on Tuesday a number of years ago, and it's now across the country. It would be tough to think that, it's happening across the country, but not happening in London. So obviously City Hall listened to that and actually got behind it. So it's that kind of interesting marriage between civil society and the political side of things. I think that's so important. I do think that, as the costs of poverty become greater, because, if you handle poverty on the cheap, you'll never deal with it. It just doesn't happen. But as they become greater, the help of the senior levels of government become more important. And we've talked about this in our previous session. But what can civil society, and by that I mean organizations like the food bank or researchers or whatever it is, how can we help the city? Because the city has to then go down to Queen's Park, or they have to go up the 401 to Toronto, and you have to make your pitch. Yeah. Because it's necessary, because they're the ones that control the levers of the economy and what cities can get. How can we help with that? I've sometimes wondered, I know my time in Ottawa, we've talked about this before, sometimes the civil society representation in the delegations that came to Ottawa wasn't very strong. It was primarily political of the people that came up. But what can we do to help the city if it's really going to take that kind of partnership with the senior levels of government? We need to all be in on that, and to fight for the kind of funding we require. How can we best work on that as a civil society? How can we help?
I think that joint advocacy is really important and really powerful. And so we also, as a municipality, we get funding through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for different programs, and we generally are competing with other municipalities for this specific program. So they'll set something up and they'll pick 5 or 6 municipalities to be a recipient of the money to run the program that they've envisioned, or they have a loose idea, and then they invite the cities to frame it for their own individual needs in their local communities. So at the FCM level, a lot of times these programs and these fundings, we've had great success in London when we go to FCM with somebody from the community, with an organization. So I participated in a pitch for what was it called? Diverse Voices for Change. And so it was coming through the Women in Civic, or the Increasing Women's Participation in Local Government Committee at FCM. That they were the ones that were putting this program together. They were giving it to 5 cities, and we made the pitch together with women in politics, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But Shauna Lukowitz was our partner on that, and we were successful in getting that program. And we geared our program around increasing women's participation on local boards here in London, local public boards and commissions. And we wanted something that we could measure the before and the after, and we did a scan of our local advisory committees and city boards like the library board and things like that, just to see what kind of diversity existed on the board, because they were looking for improvements in diversity and women from diverse backgrounds in particular. So I also think when you look at some of the city granting programs through the community grants program, they're looking for collaboration. And so I think the other levels of government as well look favorably upon that kind of collaboration, because as you know, poverty is a community problem and no one level of government and no one organization is ever going to solve it. And the way we're going to have the best success is if we all work together to deliver that change. And so Food Bank, I think, working very closely with the city on those kinds of advocacy efforts at the other levels of government, I think they would look favorably upon that. And also, you have the expertise in that food ecosystem here in London, much better than anyone at City Hall, other than the ones most entrenched in these poverty reduction programs that are being run. But even then, I would say there's nobody at City Hall that has the expertise that you have at the Food Bank for what's going on there, food related in London.
So can I put you on the spot just a bit?
Maybe.
Would you say right now that the thing that the city actually needs the most help with, because it seems to be the most urgent problem, is housing? And whatever that the rest of the community can do to lend support to the city as it makes these pitches to senior levels of government is probably right now the most vital thing, or is it something else?
I would say yes. And with food being like all those other issues, mental health supports, mental health programs, addictions, all of those being like a really, really, really close second. But I do believe that having stable housing is the foundation, and no pun intended. The housing is the foundation for all of those other things to come together. And I do think that the private sector is looking for a way to be involved. And I think there are a lot, just like everything, there are a lot of things that there are a lot of people out there that want to help, but they don't know how to help. And I think that with the private sector development industry, they get a bad reputation that they're all about profits. But I've talked to some of them and they do want to help. Sorry, that's my phone. They don't necessarily have an answer on how to help, but they do want to help. It's frustrating though, because when we do get tools like we have from the provincial government around something like inclusionary zoning, it's frustrating when we get pushback from the development industry, not individual developers, but from the body that represents them. They push back hard on something like inclusionary zoning, because that will give us tools to mandate. If you build in this specific area, we can mandate that you include some affordable housing in that development. So the way private sector views helping and the way government views helping are two different things. I did talk to one developer who just wanted to build one big building of affordable housing or subsidized housing, and that is not necessarily where government is going or where policymakers want to go anymore. They don't want that kind of ghettoization. They want affordable housing mixed in with market rate housing as much as possible.
Yeah. And speaking just my own personal experience with the development industry, I understand what people think out there, but just from the last 2 years. For instance, last year, the food bank gave $1 million to the WISH program, which was the winter shelter program that the city was managing during that time to keep people from out of the cold and find them places to be in COVID, because a lot of the shelters weren't open. You know, it was just really difficult. But Jane and I were summoned to a number of different meetings from some of the key developers in town, and they ended up giving the majority of that $1 million to make it happen, and that they asked that they not be recognized.
Yeah.
Which I found kind of beautiful in its own way. You know, I mean, we think people like tooting their own horns, and we all do to a certain degree, but I think they realized at that point that the story really wasn't about them or their donations. The story was about COVID and the pandemic, and they didn't want to upstage that. And a number of them said that to us at different times. So I really agree with you. So now one more question before we go. When I was in Ottawa, I had 4 elections in 5 years. That's how bad it was. I mean, it was dislocating. It was very difficult. You know, I saw so much partisanship there and fighting from all parties. It was just really, really hard. And yet I went to Ottawa for 3 issues. 1 was poverty, obviously. 2 was international development and helping poor countries overseas to develop. And the 3rd was women's issues. But in the course of doing that, you know, a new election would come, and then you'd have a new parliament, and then suddenly the old priorities just kind of melted away.
Yeah.
And we all had to summon it all, try to get it all back together again and make it go. And real strides were made, I think, especially on some of the Indigenous women things that we were working on. And it's frustrating when an election can come along and change that. We all know that that's part of the process, and that it's difficult. You and City Council and all of us are coming into an election pretty soon.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you feel about some of these initiatives? And I know it'll partly depend on who gets elected, but do you get frustrated, or do you feel that some of these things that we're prioritizing about right now, like housing, do you think that they will become part and parcel of the next council, or do you think there's a real chance we'll have to restart it all over again and see how we can do?
Well, the good thing about City Council is my first term of council, we implemented the 4-year budget as opposed to that annual budget. We do an annual update, so we do have to make tweaks every year, and a lot of it has to do with changes made at the federal and provincial level in legislation we have to respond to, things like that.
Yeah.
But in the 4-year budget that we passed just before COVID came in like crazy, we passed our budget, I think, March 4th, and then we shut down in the middle of March. So we had put in at that point an historic level of funding for housing. We had just come out of a restructure and reorganization in our housing division. We had at the time 167, I think, units empty because they weren't getting repaired. And there were a bunch of things going on in the housing division that caused us to just completely restructure the entire thing. Yeah. And out of that restructuring came this big level of additional funding. So that's locked in there. And the way the 4-year budget works is it overlaps the change in term. So the first year of the next term of council is still the last year of our 4-year budget. So that is in there for good. I also think we have some really, really good staff at the city right now with Lynn as the city manager. Her focus is on these things because that's what she knows best. Yeah. And so she understands the issues and the lay of the land. And so I always say that city council gets credit or darts or whatever gets kudos or the opposite of kudos.
Goes with the territory. Yeah.
For the budget, right? We get both sides, and it really, really, to a large degree, is the staff. So city council gets the draft budget that's being prepared by staff, and then we vote on it. We vote on it in, individual pieces, the overall budget, then the additional investments, and staff are very careful to separate the additional investments as recommended by staff or nice to haves, and the city needs to decide on that. I think I told you in our first talk that the budget around housing They brought those additional investments. They had staff recommended, they had the nice to haves, and city council approved almost all of them, if not all of them, even the nice to have. So that was new. And so I think we still have those staff, and yet even in housing, we have a much stronger staff. Even now, it's just gotten stronger, and they are very dedicated, and they really are thinking outside the box. I think I had a long talk with Kevin Dickens after one very, very cold weekend not too long ago, where they had to bring out
Sorry, Kevin Dickens works with the housing part of the city, correct?
Yes, he's the deputy city manager in that division. Yeah. They brought in 2 London Transit buses overnight and parked them outside the church where the overnight resting spaces are taking place. But it was so cold and there was so many people, and they had no place to put them. So they brought these 2 LTC buses. At that time, Omicron was raging. And so it was they quoted me in the paper as saying this perfect, awful storm, because Omicron was raging. So there was a severe shortage of staff. So it's not a matter of just opening up spaces in a building somewhere, because there were spaces that could have been available to house people, but there was no staff to support them. So Kevin Dickens was calling everybody that he could think of, including social justice, social work professors at King's, asking them, do you have students who are looking for volunteer work? Do you have students who could, this is like at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, can you find some students to come and help out? So he was pulling out all the stops, and that's the kind of dedication that they have in that division right now, just looking for immediate solutions as well as, and especially the long-term solutions. So I am confident that the focus on housing for sure will continue past this term of council.
Well, I think that, I think of years ago when climate change was coming along, and cities and other jurisdictions were it was kind of a peripheral issue. Mm-hmm. But it was inevitable that it would slowly creep forward over time and become a fundamental issue for all decision makers. Yeah. I think that poverty has become that as well. I mean, this series is called Food Bites, but it really is about poverty and how we tackle it. But it seems to me that homelessness now is now a relevant, upfront, front and center community issue. If the community doesn't handle it, it's not going to get handled. It's not a peripheral thing anymore.
Absolutely.
Not just a few people sitting on the streets, and we saw them every once in a while. It's now become an infrastructure problem and needs to be dealt with. So we appreciate all that you've done on that. I mean, I've known you over the years since the mayor's panel, and I know you always stay on that, Maureen. But I'm really thankful to hear that some of these issues will continue on to the agenda, stay on the agenda. And when the next city council comes in, who's ever going to be on it, that because it won't go away. It's just maybe the biggest thing right now. We're going to have to deal with it. We appreciate all your efforts on that. And if you can think of more things that we as a public can do, or organizations to do to help the city as it moves these things forward, we hope you'll let us know.
Thanks, Glenn. If you note, like, housing in particular, there's definitely a city aspect to that, but a lot of these problems that cities are tackling are not necessarily in our jurisdiction. And yet I think you've seen over the years the success that happens when cities decide to take the reins. And so climate change is one. We declared that climate emergency, and I know people were saying, well, what's the point? This declaration, it's useless. There have been a lot of changes, including canceling the widening of Wonderland Road, because it's being looked at now through this climate emergency lens that the city staff have developed. Housing is the other thing. It's like, this is technically provincial jurisdiction to some degree, and the cities are taking the bull by the horns. I think the next thing that you're going to see, this is my prediction, is mental health. You're going to see cities say, nobody's doing enough. It's affecting us directly, and it's our citizens who are suffering. We're going to do something about it. And I do believe that cities are going to take that on.
Well, Maureen, thank you for all of that. I think I quite agree with you on the mental health piece, but we've got to move together as a civil society and a political representative part together, and hopefully we'll find ways of doing that as we move into the future. Thanks for doing this, Maureen.
Thanks, Glenn.
This is Rogers TV.
Hey, welcome to the RTV Quiz Show. I'm your host, Giovanni Petiti, and you are the luckiest people on the planet because you're watching the RTV Quiz Show, the hottest show on television. It's our very special Easter edition. Looking forward to that. Oh, yeah. So if you're a Christian, I wish you a very blessed Easter. If you celebrate Easter in a more commercial way, I hope the Easter Bunny comes to your house. And if you're somewhere in between, like let's say you believe that Jesus rose from the dead on the third day and he exits the tomb, and if he sees a shadow, there's 4 more weeks to winter and chocolates. So happy Easter to you too. That's how we do. All right. And a happy Ramadan or a blessed Ramadan to all of our Muslim viewers. All right. So here we go. Round 1. Here we go. Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot it. Also a happy Passover to our Jewish community. I'm not Jewish, but I did celebrate Passover a lot in high school. That's the girls I would ask out to the prom. They would just pass me right over there. They just next. Right, our first category, round 1 is egg hunt. Egg hunt. All right, here we go. Question number 1. What British confectionery company manufactures the cream egg? You know, that commercial, the cream egg. Question number 2. What is the name of the Eggs Benedict style dish in which ham is swapped for spinach? You know, I have a confession to make. I wasn't going to go to my parents' house for Easter this year, but then I found out my mom is making Eggs Benedict. So now I'm going home for the hollandaise. Question number 3. What is the name of the jeweled Easter egg that were created for Tsar Alexander III and Nicholas II? I wonder if these czars, like as the new czars, they get worse. Like as Alexander III, like Rocky III or Godfather III, like is. Question number 4. What is the name for a boiled egg wrapped in sausage meat, coated in breadcrumbs, and fried? Wrapped in sausage meat, coated in breadcrumbs. Wow. It's like that chicken had a hell of a night, huh? Hopefully they tape that right on TikTok, right? That sausage meat. Question number 5. What is the term for the style of cocktail that is made with a whole raw egg and was popular between the 17th and 19th century? It is often heated with a red-hot iron. What cocktail is that? That sounds like a pre-hangover cocktail. And it was popular for 200 years? Right, time for round 2. Round 2 of the category is official birds. Official birds. See, birds that lay eggs. You see what went there? Easter. It's all coming together. All right. Oh, we start with a fun fact here. It says, fun fact, Canada does not have an official national bird. Unofficially, it's the Canada jay. This is very controversial, apparently. You know, I'm really shocked that Canada doesn't have a national bird. Yeah, because whenever I watch TV, I see many Canadians flipping Justin Trudeau some bird suggestions, and nothing, huh? Question number 6. What island nation's national bird is the kiwi? It's also a nickname for the people of that country. I did not know this. I did not know this. Question number 7. Alberta, Manitoba, and Quebec's official birds are all what type of raptor? This is why we can't get along as a country. We picked that bird first. We said dibs. We said lick it, stick it, stamp it. No erases. Question number 8. What type of bird is the most frequently named state bird in the United States? Oddly enough, it is not the state bird of Missouri, where a Major League Baseball team is named after it. They have several states with the same bird, named state bird. There's a lot of birds. You could say something else. I don't know. It just seems stupid. That's all. Question number 9. The Atlantic puffin is the official bird of what Canadian province? The largest puffin colony in North America can be found at the Witless Bay Ecological Reserve. That's why all those puffins are there at the reserve, because they had reservations. Question number 10. What is the national bird of India? It is an important symbol on the American network television as well. Oh, fun fact, big announcement, folks. Big announcement. Trying to keep this a secret, but I think it's getting out there, folks. Thanks to you and all your support on this show, I'm pleased to announce that I've just signed a major deal with Disney Plus. Major deal. It's a 1-year development contract where I get to watch all the shows I want for $23 a month. So, right, time for round 1. Round 1 answers. The category was egg hunt. Egg hunt. First question was, what British confectionery company manufactures the cream egg? That's Cadbury. Cadbury. Easter cream egg. Sorry. Question number 2. What is the name of an egg Benedict style dish in which ham is swapped for spinach? That's called eggs Florentine. That's a good trade. Oh, folks, speaking of which, this Easter, I'm so excited. I got a 80-inch flat screen TV for my wife. Yeah. And that was also a very good trade. That one's for the married guys who can't laugh because their wife's in the room. I'm laughing for you. Question number 3. What is the name of the jeweled Easter egg that were created for Tsar Alexander III and Nicholas II? That's a Fabergé egg. Fabergé, those is full of diamonds and rubies and stuff like that. Yeah. Question number 4. What is the name for a boiled egg wrapped in sausage meat, coated in breadcrumbs, and fried? That's a Scotch egg. A Scotch egg. Question number 5, the impossible question. What is the term for a style of cocktail that is made with a whole raw egg and is often heated with a red hot iron? That's called a flip. A flip. Question number 6. What island nation's bird is the kiwi and is also the nickname for the people of that country? That's New Zealand. Question number 7. Alberta, Manitoba, and Quebec all have the same bird from the raptor family. Does anyone know what it is? An owl. They all have the owl. Oh, which fun fact here says a group of owls is called a parliament. And a group of crows is called a murder of crows. A murder of crows. Actually, they should call a group of owls a gang of owls. That way they can have drive-by hootings. Question number 8. What type of bird is most frequently named state bird in the United States? You know what that is? That's the northern cardinal. Can we accept cardinal? No, we cannot. Sorry, because they're different than the southern cardinal. They don't get along. Like those northern cardinals they're snobby. Like, oh, we don't like the southern cardinals. Oh, with their backward ways and they're dirty birds anyway. You kiss a southern cardinal, you could get chirpies. which is bad because there's no tweetment, because it's a cardinal disease. Question number 9. The Atlantic puffin is the official bird of what Canadian province? That's Newfoundland and Labrador. Newfoundland and Labrador. And question number 10. What is the national bird of India? It's the Indian peafowl. I will also accept peacock. Because there's like the same thing. I don't know why they call it a peafowl. I'm afraid to ask. Good thing they can't fly. All right, folks, we'll be back with more RTV quiz show after this. Don't go away.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Rogers TV has given me a ton of opportunities, including meeting new people, getting involved with my local community, and trying a ton of variety of different production roles, such as graphics, camera, and audio.
Hi, I'm Matt Loop, and I am currently on Jack Mornings with Stax, Megan, and Loop on Jack 102.3.
But it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day today. I can't believe...
I was first introduced to volunteering at Rogers back when I was taking TV broadcasting at Fanshawe, and I've really been volunteering ever since.
I love it when a show comes together.
When I first started at Rogers, I was behind the scenes doing camera for sports broadcasts and in studio shows, but then I put a proposal in for a sketch comedy show called Channel Surfing, and then I went on to host some shows like What's Up London.
I don't think they have a jumpsuit big enough for me.
I wouldn't be where I am today without the wealth of experience that I got at Rogers. Not only did I get to improve my broadcasting skills in an actual environment, but as far as the sketch comedy went, it also helped my writing, my self-esteem. It also helped me on air as well. And now look where I am. I'm hosting a radio show. It's crazy.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
Hey, welcome back to the RTV Quiz Show, the hottest show on television, thanks to you and your feedback and your emails and your Insta tweets and your Insta scams and the face lock and whatever else you guys are doing. Keep up doing the good work, all right? Because I don't do this for the RTV Quiz Show money. I do this for the RTV Quiz Show love. All right. Time for round 3 of our Easter edition. The category is musical terms, because everyone loves a good Easter song. Like, who wrote this? My back just hurt trying to make that stretch between musical terms and Easter, but thanks. Thank you very much. All right, question number 11. What is the 5-letter term for the overall speed of a piece of music? 5-letter term. I'm going to warn you right now, folks, I don't have a lot of jokes for this category, because even though I play 3 instruments extremely well. That's the record player, the tape deck, and the CD changer. That's my... Play almost anything. I mean, if you got it, I can play it. So, question number 12. What M term refers to a piece of music composed from parts and other existing pieces, usually played one after another? Well, I got this theory, like, you know, those little dots with the sticks on them on a piece of paper. I think they're making that up. I think there's like a club that people meet once a year and say, let's mess with people's heads and tell them this is what music looks like. Because I can't figure it out. Question number 13. What 4-letter term is indicated by this symbol? See, this is what I'm talking about. Eh? It looks like the lowercase b, they got rear-ended by a capital H and some kind of letter traffic jam. Like, it's just... Question 14. Okay, folks, listen up. This is an audio clue. Audio clue. What is the term for this style of playing in which a note is rapidly repeated? And play it. Is it A, tremolo, B, timbre, C, crescendo, or D, glissando? Or E, annoying? Because it was a bit annoying. They're just now you know they're making this up, eh? There's a word for that. There's a word for the word for that is the record is skipping, is what the word. Question 15. What is the highest of the standard 4 vocal ranges? 2-1. Actually, I know this one because this is the octave that my wife sings in. Fun fact, folks, when my wife sings in the house, I always leave and go to the porch. Not just because I don't want to hear her, it's because I want to make sure that no one calls the police because they think I'm killing her in there. It sounds the same. All right, folks, it's time for round 4. Round 4 in the Easter edition. The category is hydrology. Hydrology, which, of course, is the study of trying to figure out your hydro bill. Honey, why is the bill so high? What? Oh, yeah, no, it's over. It says here we got a rebate. So that's good. No, actually, folks, hydrology is the study of water. Because nothing says Easter more than a glass of water. Or Easter. Question 16. What celestial body has the greatest influence on the Earth's tides? That's easy. Just a lovely and talented Paris Hilton. Question 17. In the Earth's water cycle, what process comes after evaporation and is responsible for the formation of clouds? The Earth's water cycle. That's like the American beer cycle. You drink the beer, and then Question 18. Which of the following is a long, narrow inlet with steep sides that was shaped by a glacier? Is that A, a sound, B, a fjord, C, a gulf, or D, a cove? I hope it's not fjord, because I can't pronounce that, and there's just a random J for no reason. It's like somebody who invented that word was trying to cheat at Scrabble. That's what that fjord. So I hope it's not that. Question number 19. What is the 7-letter term for an underground body of rock or sediment that holds groundwater? 7 letters. Underground body of rock that holds groundwater. You realize right now there's 200 stupid people going, I know this. I know this. Question 20. What is the name of the world's largest hydroelectric dam? It spans the Yangtze River in China. I'll give you a hint. It was made in China. That's it. Right, time for round 3. Round 3 answers. The category was musical terms. Musical terms. All right. Question 11. What is the 5-letter term for the overall speed of a piece of music? That's called a tempo. Question number 12. What M term refers to a piece of music composed from parts of other existing pieces, usually played one after the other one? The answer is a medley. A medley. You know, this topic really makes me regret not joining the high school band, you know. I got no talent, but I figured I could have played something like the flute because it's easy to carry and basically nobody can hear you. So you can basically suck. I don't know. Get the tuba, boom, 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 we got the drum. Ba, 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 ba. Question 13. What 4-letter term is indicated by this symbol? That's a flat. Flat. I don't know. Looks like a B cup to me. Question 13. What is the term for this style of playing in which a note is rapidly repeated? Roll it. That term for that style of music is called lazy. Lazy. No, it's tremolo. Tremolo. Question 15. What is the highest of the standard 4 vocal ranges? That's soprano. That's soprano. My vocal coach told me I should be a tenor, or 10 or 12 feet away from a microphone at all times. I think that's what she said. This is Johnson, if you're watching. How you like me now? Question 16. What celestial body has the greatest influence on the Earth's tides? That's the moon. Question 17. In the Earth's water cycle, what process comes after evaporation and is responsible for the formation of clouds? That's called condensation. Condensation. Question 18. Which of the following is a long, narrow inlet with steep sides that was shaped from a glacier? That was B, a fjord. A fjord. Question 19. What is a 7-letter term for an underground body of rock or sediment that holds groundwater? That's an aquifer. An aquifer. Question number 20. What is the name of the world's largest hydroelectric dam? It spans the Yangtze River in China. It's the Three Gorges Dam. Three Gorges Dam. Apparently it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. The fourth one was ugly. Speaking of ugly, folks, we'll be right back right after this. Don't go away. Round 5 coming up.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
My daughter is 7 years old and has a frenemy. They have play dates that always end up in a fight or tears. This friend bosses her around and treats her poorly, but she still wants to be her friend. What's a parent to do?
I would let them acquiesce to a certain amount, and then, when they're at this age, you still need to be supervising their play dates. So I might step in, not to correct the bossy child, but it's my child that I'm concerned about. I would just expose her to other people, teach her to have a voice, and let her know that she's got options.
Hi, my name is Gerald. I'm a volunteer here at Rogers TV. Really happy with all the great things I've learned doing video productions for Rogers, all the great people I've met, and being part of a great community.
RTV quiz show. Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is round 5. We have double point answers. Why? Because we can, folks, because we can. Here we go, round 5. The category is Keeping Up with the Joneses, very special Easter edition of our TV quiz show. All these answers are famous people whose last name is Jones. All right, here we go. Question 21. Which Welsh singer is known for the songs It's Not Unusual and What's New Pussycat? What's up, Pussycat? Oh, 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 oh. What's up, Pussycat? Oh, oh, oh. Fixing the auto-tune. Fixing an auto-tune. Question 22. Who provided the voice of Mufasa in The Lion King and Darth Vader in Star Wars? Who's that guy? I'm not a big Star Wars, a big Star Trek fan. I'm watching that again on the Netflix because I have no life. I've only watched about 4 episodes, but I think I figured it out, folks. If you get beamed down to a planet with Captain Kirk, Spock, Bones, and yourself, you're gonna die. That's me not making it up. No. Question 23. Who played Betty Draper on the AMC series Mad Men? I never understood this show. Why are these guys supposed to be mad? Huh? Are you kidding me? They're at work in the middle of the afternoon. They pick up the phone, they press a button, and some good-looking woman comes and brings them a scotch. What's there to be mad about? They're smoking and talking all day long, sleeping with everybody. I don't know. Now, the women, I know why the women would be mad. That I understand. The show should be called Rightfully Ticked Off Women. That's what that show should be called. Question 24. What English musician was born David Robert Jones, but changed his name into something inspired by American frontiersmen? David Robert Jones, but you know him by a different name. That's the name his mother called him when he was upset. David Robert Jones, you come here right now. Question 25. Which Jamaican model, musician, actress appeared in the 1985 James Bond movie, A View to Kill? View to Kill, Jamaican model. I think my printer is a Jamaican model because all the time it be jamming. All right, time for round 5 answers. All right, remember, all has to do with keeping up with the Joneses. What Welsh singer was known for the songs It's Not Unusual and What's Up Pussycat? That was Tom Jones. Tom Jones. Fun fact, Tom Jones will be touring again once COVID is over. When he was asked, is it still appropriate for women to throw their underwear at you when you're singing? He replied, well, my fan base is older now, so it depends. Question 22. Who provided the voice of Mufasa in The Lion King and Darth Vader in Star Wars? Well, that was James Earl Jones. Question 23. Who played Betty Draper in the AMC series Mad Men? That was January Jones. That's your name, January. Question 24. What English musician was born David Robert Jones? Yes, that was David Bowie. Question 25. Which Jamaican model, musician, actress appeared in the 1985 James Bond movie, A View to Kill? That was Grace Jones. Grace Jones. And folks, that's all the time we have for this episode of our TV Quiz Show. Till next time, be calm, be safe, and be nice.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Favorite part of volunteering at Rogers has been picking up new tech skills like running cameras or graphics and getting to volunteer with and meet people in a super fun sports-based environment.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tyler Fines, host of Off the Puck Hockey on Rogers Channel 20. We interview some of the biggest names in hockey and sports. Check us out, Rogers Channel 20, Off the Puck Hockey. Let's go.
Calling all journalism students, Omni Television is once again awarding scholarships to qualified students pursuing a career in third language journalism.
Canada is a multicultural country.